everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talking Sports. I'm Sergeant Rock, that's Joe Stovall. On the other side of the glass, we got Veronica and Jason on the lenses. We got Jason, not Jason, but Jazz, he's over on the knobs.
Right.
And in the captain's chair,
Who's in the captain's chair?
we have Namika Bates. Did I pronounce it right?
Who?
Namika, don't have me say it too many times.
I just remember when I used to live in Chicago, Doug Banks had a little bit. And he would say, is it Namika? Or is it Namika? All night long. Namika. See?
It's Namika. See, I screwed it up. I know it. I was going to start calling the baby a little bit.
Baby. Right. We're just trying to get the show turned. What the kids say? Turned up.
Turned up. What's going on up here?
Come on up here.
So people can see you and they can hear you. All right, here's what we're going to be talking about today. The Fighting Illini, they picked up a W against Penn State. And yeah, they returned to their losing ways. They got Ohio State tomorrow. Yeah, all right. Also, we're going to talk about Oklahoma State's Marcus Smart. Was he smart at all when he pushed the dude in the stand? Now, some say they called him the N-word, but, they played the audio, so that wasn't the case. But we're going to talk about that. Also, Missouri's All-American, Michael Sams, says he's gay, he's proud, and he's waiting on the NFL draft. Will he get picked up?
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. Also, this is Black History Month, so we have some little-known Black History sports facts.
Ooh, some first stuff.
Yeah, I got it right here, Bill. And I like to thank, I told her I was a little thing, so I like to thank my intern, Peggy LaFrance. She wrote them down for me, y'all.
She's a person.
No. I just like saying
LaFrance.
I just like saying LaFrance.
Okay.
Okay. Also, want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day.
Give some.
If you got a significant other,
he definitely
or even if you don't, and we want to.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We also want to wish the jump offs a happy Valentine's Day.
Oh my!
Come on now, jump offs need love too. Matter of fact, that's what I'm doing for Valentine's night.
You gonna be a jump off?
No, I'm going to the club and wait for the jump offs. That's my plans for this season. We got all that and more coming up on this edition of Talking Sports. You be sure to stay tuned.
Welcome back. Talking Sports WBCP 1580. The UPTV version of Talking Sports. Face only good for radio.
Thank you.
But we brought in something that enhances the radio faces.
Make us look good.
Right.
Talk about me.
Come on, girl. Slide. Pull the captain's chair on up.
Okay, I'm coming.
Now, usually when we get in this testosterone-laden show and, all the chauvinistic statements that we make, we have nobody to check us.
Is that my job?
Your job,
I'm checking you.
You are check.
All right,
the
I'm
check
ready.
checker.
I'm the checker.
Oh, now we're gonna be on our best behavior.
You already started.
You started.
What I do?
You talking about jump offs?
Oh.
Yeah. You forgot that quick. That's
Thank you,
bad.
thank
You
you.
forgot that quick.
See what happened with sometimes. It ain't Alzheimer's, but it's sometimes.
It's Valentine's Day, man.
Valentine's Day. Well, we have Namika Bates sitting in between us. Now, Namika, first of all, introduce yourself in terms of who are you?
Who am I?
People be like, we got Namika Bates, but who is that?
Who is that? Well, I am a Champaign native. Let's get that very clear, right? Very clear. I wasn't born here, but I moved here in the 4th grade. So I've been here.
Okay.
Right. I did moved to Chicago about 4 years ago.
All right.
So now people, are trying to, trying to put me from Chicago. I am from the Pain. So let's make that very clear.
So we got a Bubble
Went
City
to
babe right here.
Centennial,
Uh-oh.
only the best. I know. Yeah, we can get into that later too. We can get into that because I know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying only the best. Let me make that very clear.
Ooh,
Centennial
she
Chargers.
got the hand signal
That's right.
going on.
Yeah, the whole woman thing.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
The Chargers, absolutely. I am a Charger alum.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But I went to the University of Illinois. Got my bachelor's, master's in sports management, and I am currently a doctoral candidate in kinesiology, which is basically I focus on sports sociology. So that's what I do now. I'm graduating in May. Let me get that recorded on camera. graduating in May.
That invite.
So next time I come, absolutely. We can
That ain't
broadcast the whole graduation weekend.
It's not an invite. She let you know, get your chips ready to get their gift.
So
May.
So next time she comes back, we got to call her
You got
Dr. Bates.
That's right.
Dr. B is in the house.
That's right.
Well, it is a pleasure and an honor to have somebody with your stature in the
thank
sports
you.
field
Thank you.
to sit among us for the next hour and a half or so. And,
Thank you.
as we do, we ramble, we talk, we jive. But the one thing we always try to do is make it informative on talking sports. And Sam, you've already read off your list of topics.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and get the Atlanta out the way because
They've been trying to get everything else out the way.
I'm sick of them, really.
What do you now? They've lost 9 of 10. Yeah. They just disappointed you the other night. A 9-point loss at home, or excuse me, on the road against Nebraska. What is it now?
They should have beat Nebraska.
And
they had them by 6 at halftime.
No, they were down 1 at half.
But then they got to a 6-point lead
early in the second half.
And
then Nebraska went on a nice 12-0 run and
bam.
Now, we've talked over the weeks about the same issues each week with this team, which is what? Shooting. The team is struggling scoring. They play good defense. You know, Coach Gross always talks about the effort that they show on both ends of the floor. But the bottom line is, if you cannot put the ball in the basket, you cannot win basketball games.
This is true.
They've struggled. They've mixed up lineups. They pulled Joe Bertrand and John Ike, trying to use some freshmen in terms of Kendrick.
Now, did he not do what I said he suggested he should do against Penn State? Start some of the freshmen.
Mm-hmm. He waited until, and I think one of the things that worked there was he waited until it was time to announce the starting lineups to inform the guys so that they didn't have any preconceived notion in terms of what they were supposed to be doing. And they went out. Kendrick Nunn played a fabulous game, a lot of energy in that game, but it's Penn State.
They were in last place too, weren't they?
Yes. It was pretty ugly. So now you come back with Nebraska. Nebraska's only lost 1 game at home at the entire season, and that was a 1-point loss to Michigan in January when the Big Ten season first started. They're a tough team at home. And so, you know, I know Coach Gross does not want any moral victories. This team doesn't want any moral victories because moral victories get you nothing when it comes to tournament time.
Mm-hmm.
And moving forward.
Hold on. They're not going to the tournament.
I didn't say they were.
We said that last week.
Right. I'm just saying that the moral victories are not going to do anything in terms of the win and loss column. Moving forward, though, you talked about trying to educate this team to prep it for the 14-15 season by playing these freshmen.
That's correct.
Now that you've seen 2 freshmen start, moving forward, do you want to see more freshmen?
I really do. You know, I'm not very good with names.
Right. Yours is Sam. I'm Joe. This is Namika.
I'm talking about the
Pleased
freshmen.
to meet you. Oh,
The freshmen.
I thought you were talking about the crowd.
No, the freshmen. I'm not
Okay.
good with the names. But yes, they should get those guys in the game, let them get some PT, and you know, get a floor of the game for next season because this was obviously lost.
Right. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Okay. That'll be my name right now.
Okay.
And I want Namika to jump in this, being a sports psychologist.
Sociologist.
I apologize.
That's okay.
See, that shows you my educational background. I can't even read.
It's easy to mix them up. That's cool.
But when you talk about making change and guys coming back, it's a very delicate tightrope you're walking. Because let's start with Tracy Abrams and Jalen Tate. Jalen Tate is the freshman point guard coming in from Simeon. He's done pretty good as a freshman playing the point. Tracy Abrams, your bulldog, your leader on the floor. His freshman year, he was the MVP of the team.
They're not producing,
But
Joe.
can I make my point before you already, Your Honor, don't overrule my objection. The point I'm making is that if you pull Tracy now, going into next year as a senior, how does that affect his psyche? Okay. Ravonte Rice, he's your redshirt junior. He's your leading scorer. He's had some issues with injuries. Scored 21 the other night against Nebraska. Do you pull him? Considering he will probably be your team leader next year. Nana Egwu, another returning junior. Do you pull him for either Austin Colbert or Maverick Morgan going into his senior year? What do you make that decision now as a coach and deal with the ramifications later, or do you tiptoe around this subject matter until the fall of 2014?
Okay, they have how many games left?
They probably have 5 left.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yank 'em.
What does that teach them? What does that teach the guys who, like Joe said, what does that teach them if you yank them now? So is that the theory, is teaching them a lesson? You haven't been producing, so
exactly.
let's teach them a lesson by pulling, because there's somebody on the bench better or potentially better.
That's right.
Than they are.
That's what you do.
Okay, then my follow-up to that, perfect segue, that's why she's getting a doctor. Because now you pull them, and your freshmen don't produce.
Right.
And you continue on your winning ways. Now you start the factions within the locker room. Now your juniors start to insulate themselves off, forget them punks, they try to take our job. The freshmen, they get a little arrogant because, I'm a starter now. Where's their incentive or motivation to play better, because now they've got to the pinnacle. Now as a coach, you've got personalities that you have to deal with, not just through the season, but through the summer and the off season of getting the team together, and you're bringing in 2 new players, or actually 5 new players next year, 3 transfers that are sitting on the bench, and 2 incoming freshmen. How do you juggle that if you make that decision?
Okay, I'm going to use myself as a personal example.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
Now,
Hold on. Let me get my seatbelt on for this one. Because
now, I used to play baseball.
Okay.
And there was a period, and I'm really kind of ashamed to admit this, but I am. There was a period when I was like 0 for 25, Joe.
no.
We don't believe it.
0 for 25.
You?
We don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
Oh, man.
We don't believe it.
I couldn't hit the ball if I threw it up and swung at myself. I was over 25. And the coach decided that he was going to pull me, sat me on the bench for like 3 games.
Right.
All I did was batting practice and threw the ball around. And, during that period, the guy that replaced me, God bless him, I wanted to punch him in his mouth. Every time he came back to the bench, he was like, it was like he was the star and this, that, and the other. And I'm looking at him all side-eyed, ready. Anyway, after I went back, he put me back in the lineup, and I did pretty good. Matter of fact, I went 3 for 4 that game I came back.
Okay, that was a nice soliloquy that you just said there.
But
what in the heck
but
does that have to do?
I'm getting ready to explain it to you.
Oh,
but
there's a moral to the story.
This is where his philosophy comes in.
Exactly.
The punishment then results in the win.
There you go.
Is what his I'm with you.
Thank you, doctor.
I'm with you.
That
was his whole point.
Some couch time. Speaking of couch time, we're going to go to the phone lines, 3599227. Talking sports, talk to us, caller.
What's happening, Joe? I'm glad to see you're back.
Thank you.
Just 2 issues about the Illini. I don't think you necessarily bench the upperclassmen as much as you do what Gross has been doing, and that's giving the freshmen more playing time.
Excellent point, Mike.
And Rayvonte, I know he's a leading scorer and all that, but he's got more injury issues. He's got some taking really bad shot issues, too.
Do you think that is a product of when you're trying to be a leader, sometimes leaders try to do too much?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because all he's heard for, year and a half or whatever spin he's been back in town is you're the savior, you're the great player, you're the hometown guy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, he's 3 years old maybe, something like that.
Right.
He's got to be feeling the pressure, but I mean, come on, he's got to know better than that. He's a much better ball player from what I know, and I've never seen him play in person. And of course, Joe, you've known him for a while, but he's a much better, I think, overall basketball player than what he's shown since he got his hip flexor or whatever it was. And I think he's a lot better shooter, but, like we talked about a couple, 3 weeks ago, they can't make a shot to save their soul.
Right. So what would you suggest moving forward would you, as you indicated, let the freshmen play more, but still leave the upperclassmen in the starting lineup, or would you go just crazy like Sam and just cut everybody?
Well, no, I think you continue to do what he's been doing. You know, the other day, I think it was Iowa or whoever it was when he started Hill and my boy Kendrick Nunn. You know, and they came out. Nunn had a huge game the other day. So, I mean, you got Joe Bertrand, who I have said for the 5 years he's been here, he's probably got the most athletic talent on anybody that's ever been on that team, but Joe just isn't consistent.
Right.
And, you know, it's like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, you know, Rayvonte needs to get his 15, 18, 20 points. Tracy's got to get his 8 to 10. Nanu's got to get his 10. Bertrand's got to get his 10. And then they're good. But again, nobody's making any shots. I mean, you know, John Eakey, not to pick on the kid, but he comes in with the I'm the point shooter reputation, and man, he's missing stuff bad. He's shooting balls long, he's shooting balls short, and I'm sorry, but I don't care what level of basketball you're playing, the hoop's still 10 feet off the ground.
Right.
So,
well, they play.
I'm about 2 blocks away, and I'll pop in there and say hi.
All right, appreciate it, Mike. Appreciate you calling Talking
All
Sports. Right. Take care.
Bye.
Well, that's Mike's opinion. It goes back to shooting. You know, we've got different opinions, but moving forward into tomorrow's game, you've got Ohio State coming into town. Ohio State has been really erratic this year, turnover-laden team, real talented team.
Wasn't they rated, third? Somewhere at the beginning of the season.
You go back to preseason, they were a top 5 team. You know, right now they're hanging around the 23-25 range when it comes to their rankings. Like I said, talent galore on that particular team. Aaron Craft, senior leader, is point guard. You got LaQuentin Ross, big guy who can shoot the 3. He can also post. Amir Williams, big strong man in the post. Linzel Smith, lefty. Sam Thompson, jump out the gym. I mean, you've got all the elements of, you know, a real star-studded collegiate basketball team.
That 7-year senior, what's his name? Little guard.
Oh, Craft.
Craft, yeah. Is he ever going to graduate?
No, he's going to be a career basketball player and student. These are the type of matchups when you've got a wounded animal like the Illinois is coming in against a team like Ohio State that's kind of fighting for that upper echelon. These are those type of games that make for drama and intrigue in sports. What do you see happening?
Ohio State winning. Anything else?
That's simple.
That's it.
That's simple.
So you think that the freshmen could come in and play against a Ohio State team and have the confidence that they need to beat a team like Ohio State?
No, I don't. But you know, it would give them confidence.
So why would you take the guys out?
Experience.
Exactly.
Experience.
No.
Experience.
But that's the point, though. That's the entire point for why it's probably not a good idea to just pull everybody, particularly against an Ohio State team, right? Because you cannot give these young freshmen, you know, again, it's definitely a roll of the dice that they're going to come in. Because I think that's the assumption, right? Is that you got freshmen on it. That's the easy answer. When teams are losing, why you still got the freshmen on the bench, right? The easy answer is, well, they thirsty. They gonna come out and they gonna really ball because this is my chance. That's the assumption, right? Exactly. If that actually worked, don't you think more coaches would do it more often?
Absolutely,
it's an assumption. It's not actually fact.
But like I said,
that's what happened.
This season is lost. This season is lost. There's nothing going to.
But it's never lost because the point is. I'm just listening. Because a season is never lost if the design of a coach or a player is to play with confidence, right? We know that makes a player successful. So if you look at you're still not working towards making sure that you're building the confidence in the team. So you can continue to play these guys, let their confidence be built up so that they are then ready coming into the next season with confidence. Just like last season. Last season, we thought it was over. And wait a minute, You know, you think I'm not trying to be on his side.
Joe think you're chewing me out. But I'm gonna wait for you to finish.
I'm just saying. What I'm saying is that we thought it was over last season, and they came back and they rocked it out as best as they could. So it brought us into this season, high confidence, ready to go. So we have to kind of keep that same. We don't want to abandon that confidence in our team that they have the capacity to do that too.
Namika.
So, yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh, it went from Dr.
I
Basic.
know, right?
Namika.
Right.
Like,
I'm coming at him, so he's ready, right?
Like your daddy upstairs. Like he called down to tell you to get something.
Okay.
Bring me a glass of water.
Yes,
5 games left.
Yes. Okay.
Now, how much confidence are you going to get out of 5 games?
The same amount of confidence.
They've been beat down all season.
Absolutely.
What kind of confidence is they going to get? I mean, the coach trying to tell them that, oh, they played hard. I like the way they went out there and played.
Right.
Mike even said they're not making baskets. They're not making baskets. What kind of confidence? Their confidence is already shot as far as I'm concerned.
But part of that, the reason why their confidence is shot is because...
You can look at their attitude on the floor. Now, your coach says they're playing hard, they this, that, and the other. But you can see them as they run down the floor, as they pass the ball around. There is no confidence. They scared to shoot. Why? We ain't gonna make it.
But that's because they hear people like you, Sam, on the radio talking about y'all losing. Y'all, they can't shoot. You can't shoot.
First of all,
part of their confidence comes from us as their fans.
Don't be pointing at me.
Right?
Don't be pointing
part
at
of
me,
their confidence comes from us as fans. You have to imagine as a coach, right? I'm the only one in the locker room telling these guys, you can do it, you're good, that, okay. And then you go out on the field, you go out on the court, and you looking in the stands, people slouch down in their seat like, man, I don't even know why I'm here. These guys, what time is it? I'm going to go ahead and leave at halftime because they losing.
Come on now.
I mean, how is that?
Joe, what happened to the last home game? What happened to the last home game in Illinois?
Oh, when it was about 4,100.
What they say? Y'all come on down.
Well, it was a blizzard that night. I mean, you gotta make sure you don't make it seem like only 4,100 people showed up because it was a nice sunny day.
Yeah.
Bottom line is this.
Don't do it like that.
The mind of an athlete is very fragile. John grows.
Contrary to popular belief, right?
Because most people
people assume that because I'm an athlete,
I'm stoic, I'm strong,
exactly.
I can go through anything,
have
adversity.
Any feelings,
that's it. And when you have to think, as I'm gonna use, like I said, I'll be Nana, Tracy, or Ravante. Do I want to come back if I'm not wanted? Is the psychology and the thought process that they're thinking as individuals when they're moving forward. Because you got to remember, Sam, they got to go through this again next year. They got to go through this. And if my psyche is that fragile right now, where do you think it's going to go next year? The first time Nana turns and shoots and misses. The first time Tracy comes down and turns it over. The first time Ravante comes down and somebody says he took an ill-advised shot. All these thoughts are going to come back. And they come to the forefront. They're not going to be in the subconscious. They're going to be right there. And because of that, now, Mike called in earlier, talked about Joe Bertrand. I think that's where Joe Bertrand is. Every time something happens, it brings a lot of this stuff back that, oh man, just like when Brandon Paul and these guys were here, this is how I was playing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm a fifth-year senior, but I'm still not producing. Oh well, forget it. So like I said, I understand about this, get the freshmen in, get them some time. I have no problem with that, but you got to be careful. Unless you got five-star recruits coming in to take these guys' place next year, they're going to be on the floor next year.
So let me help you out, Sam. I'm going to help you out. Because I think that your broader point is that we have to hold the players accountable to some extent, right? They have to be held accountable to some extent. So your point is that if I'm putting you out on the floor and you're not producing, then I have to hold you accountable. And my way of holding you accountable is sitting you on the bench so that you're ready, right?
Okay.
Okay, you with me?
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you when you're right.
Right. Okay. So I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you that the question is then how do you hold them accountable? I don't agree that the way that you hold them accountable is just to sort of give up on them.
No,
But
you're not giving up on them now.
The ultimate question is how do you hold them accountable? And if sitting them on the bench and putting freshmen in and then you don't really see that that's working, then you got to try different things. You have to try other methods.
Right. So with tomorrow's game, you said Ohio State, you're going to give a score?
78-60.
78-68?
60.
Oh, so Ohio State by 18?
6-0.
Wow. I'm going to say 71-67 Illinois.
I'm going to say Illinois. That's my team. I'm never going to root against my team. Illinois is going to win. What do you mean? I don't understand. What's the question?
Now, you talked about being smart. Segue. Marcus Smart.
Yeah, we'll take a commercial break.
You want to take a break on that?
And then we come back. We're gonna talk about what's his name?
Marcus
Smart.
Yeah.
He wasn't too smart.
Yeah.
I saw the video. That was kind of crazy.
But what I would like to delve into when we come back and talk about that is there's two arenas on this. Him as an individual, but then going back to the point of the athlete. When is too much? Too much.
Okay. And with that being said, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, we got more Talking Sports. Stay around.
Welcome back. Talking Sports, WBCP 1580. Sergeant Rock, Stovall, and Dr. Bates in the house. You know, the first session of Dr. Bates, she politely laid Sam on the couch.
Oh, come on now. Why does it have to be all that?
It's
We had a discussion, people.
I disagree with you.
It was on the video.
I don't.
The video don't lie, OJ.
Well, we're going to have to watch this and find out.
We're definitely going to have to watch it. But we're back on UPTV, WBCP 1580. We were talking earlier about Final Line basketball when we went to the break and wanted to expand the college basketball conversation to the incident that happened in Lubbock, Texas with Marcus Smart, guard for Oklahoma State. Went into the stands and put his hands on a fan after allegedly a fan either said a racial slur or said something to the effect. The conversation, number one, Smart got suspended 3 games. I'll open it up. Do you think the penalty was appropriate, too harsh, not harsh enough? And then after that, the segue would be in reference to the interaction between fans and collegiate athletes.
Personally, I think 3 games that's good enough. That's good enough. And he never should have put his hands, on the fan because this isn't the first time that players went to the stands and been called names, and it goes on throughout the entire ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That makes it okay.
No, it doesn't. But that's all part of being a fan. Would you not agree?
No, I don't.
You have during the course of a ball game, you have never said to or yelled it out because 9 times out of 10 they probably don't hear you anyway because you're sitting up in the rafters somewhere. You holler, "You suck," or something to that effect. You never done that?
Because I'm a player advocate, so I wouldn't necessarily, I'm not that kind of. I might be frustrated, but I would never create a personal attack. I might be frustrated. I might throw stuff at the TV, but I wouldn't necessarily personally attack an individual player per se.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say you suck. But that's not to say though that it's kind of the same thing, right? If I'm frustrated, that could be received sort of the same way if a player did interact with me in that way. But I think the more important point is the notion that whatever I say, a player's not really gonna hear me anyway, so I can really kind of say what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good reason to do it.
Right.
So then when do you become accountable when a player does hear you?
There's a saying that some guys say, if you can't say it on the street, don't say it in the arena. I'm cut from old school cloth like you. This might be a two against one, shifting the other way.
Let's give me.
Number one, I do believe the punishment was appropriate.
Yep.
3-game suspension, I think, was appropriate. My attitude on players and fans, there should never, and I mean never, be a legitimate reason other than somebody physically accosting you as an athlete to put your hands on a fan. I will say that unequivocally. And
We agree on that one.
And like I said, this is old school thought. I know she's got some education behind it, so she'll probably trump everything I say. But anyway.
No. I agree. I don't think anybody should put their hands on anybody.
When
I agree with you.
you talked about playing your athletics back in the day, in the 30s. You know.
It was the 40s.
40s, I'm sorry. Right. You just come home from the war. But I've been in hostile environments. I've been called the N-word on the basketball court. There is a psychology for an athlete. We talked about it earlier about being stoic, and we used to call it white noise, meaning just like white light. You see all the white light around you, the white noise. You hear there's certain things being said. You can say something, Mike can say something, Tamika can say something. But if I'm ultrally focused on the task at hand, I really don't know who said it. And quite frankly, I can block it out mentally and move forward.
Right.
When I look at the smart play, I look at the situation. Number one, the team was losing.
Right.
Number two, they're getting ready to lose their 4th or 5th game in a row. Number three, he had been playing poorly personally. Number four, you're in a location where, quite frankly, the folks in Lubbock, they ain't beat Oklahoma State in forever. So this is, And then number five, you get the perfect storm of the super fan, the guy who, going back to your point, buys a ticket.
Yeah, he was at every game.
Right. But not only that, it's almost as though Texas Tech encourages his behavior. Which you see that a lot in a lot of sports where people truly believe they have an effect on the performance of athletes on the floor based on their behavior or what they say.
Spike Lee.
Yeah. There you go. When in actuality, 99% of the time, they're actually making buffoons of themselves.
Right.
But even with all that being said, when Marcus Smart, when the play occurred, and I asked some guys playing devil's advocate, I said, everybody's like, yeah, if somebody called me that, I'd have went in the stands too. And I said, well, let's reverse the situation. Let's say Oklahoma State was winning. Same play happens where he tries to come down and block a dunk. He lands, and somebody says the same thing. If he goes in the stands, now there's a technical.
But this is okay. We gotta stop here. Okay, he didn't go in the stands. We're not talking about. What's the child's name from the Pistons?
Oh, Ron Artest.
Ron Artest. We're not talking about Ron Artest, who got up and went in the stands, right?
Right.
He ran into the play was ending and
exactly. He was on the floor.
Exactly.
They helped him up.
Exactly. So he didn't go into the stands.
But he did because I'm gonna correct you on this.
The play took him into the stands.
Now, wait. Let me. He fell to the floor. 2 fans helped him up. He's still facing towards the floor. So let's make sure we're correct on this. It's not like he fell face first he was facing towards the floor. He stood up with the help of 2 fans and turned.
Because of something he heard. Okay.
And then he took 2 steps up because the guy was on a riser. So it wasn't like he was right behind him. He was on a riser. He went up into that's my point. About going into the stand. He went up there.
Okay.
Then he exchanged.
It just makes it sound way more dramatic for somebody who didn't see it
right.
to say that he went into the stands, like he was standing on the court and he heard somebody that you. So
right.
I'm just
okay. No problem with the clarification.
Okay.
But even at that point,
okay,
when he turns, that tells me right there, his frustration of his performance had overwhelmed him so much that he had forgot the purpose of why he was on the floor. For that split second. Now, everybody has lost it for a split second. Sam always loses it. You know, Mike has never lost it. I may,
once or twice.
You know. But he did lose it. And for that point, he got punished. But now to the bigger point. Going to what you're talking about with fan interaction. Whose responsibility? Because my point to him is that you can't police the player can't police the fans. You know, every time somebody says something, I can't be like a crazy pit bull running around, you know, who said what. That's up to the university or
security.
So my point is this. Are we going to get to the point where we're going to have little microphones on everybody? That, you know, every time you say something, if it's deemed inappropriate. And then what is the level of what would be considered inappropriate behavior as a fan to the point where we have to silence you or remove you?
Did you hear what the fan called it? Well, he didn't call it the N-word. It was like...
he said it's been widely reported he said he was a piece of crap. But
it was something like that.
Word.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying.
I've heard that. I've heard some other reports have said he told him to go back to Africa. The question is, what is the level? That's my point. Where's the dividing line?
But I think that
Dr. Bates.
But okay, so for me, I don't agree that punishing the fan, we can't punish fans for their actions. Because to me, the philosophy should hold for a fan that's being held for Marcus, right? Is that our philosophy is he did something he shouldn't have done, so we're going to punish him so that he learns his lesson, right? So the assumption is that if we use him as an example, other players will also follow that example, right? That's the purpose of punishment, right? Is so that he learns a lesson and other players learn the lesson as well too, right?
Yeah, well,
so we're not talking about miking every player or you know or setting regulations against every player who makes that choice, right? We're saying let this action reflect what we think your behavior should be, and let that be an example for other people in the same position, players in the same position. So we don't have to mic every fan to so that we can monitor. Our desire is to send a message in general, overall, that this is inappropriate behavior. If we never hold fans accountable for their actions, then we're sending a message that it's okay. Like Sam said, it's a part of the game. I can keep doing it. I can continue to be disrespectful. I can continue to demean and demoralize these young people. Because, you know, we could talk about it on the college level. I mean, on the pro level is a completely different thing. But we're talking about young people, right? Kids, college students. We're talking about young people. So the point is that whether we can catch everybody should not be the reason for why we shouldn't do anything.
Right. And so I'm going to let Mike go ahead and jump in, and then I
was just saying on the flip side of that, we can't not hold the guy that's my age, white guy, that said what he said accountable, because I don't know how well, or even if it's presented at basketball games, but I know at volleyball games, and I believe at football games as well, there's the announcement that says NCAA requires you to treat everybody with respect and da-da-da-da-da. And my question would be, I suppose, how much money does that guy give to Texas Tech? Because he should have been kicked out. Right then and there. I don't care how long he's been a season pass holder, whatever.
Well, it said that he can't attend any more ball games.
Okay, what about next year? Yeah, I mean, you can't hold the player accountable for reacting. And I know this has been widely reported. He was called a piece of crap. Stephen Bartle made a really good point on Big Ten Network the other night was, you know, most young athletes in NCAA basketball are black. And he implied, he didn't come out and say it, but he implied the N-word was dropped on the kid. Now, if that's the case, I'd be pissed too. And I would have got up in the guy's face. And of course, you know, that doesn't apply to me, but you know what I'm saying. So if that's the case, then Texas Tech needs to step up and do something with the fan, because you can't just just say whatever you want, do whatever you want as a fan, because you have to be held accountable, because at some point in time, Ron Artest is going to climb up the stands and beat your butt.
And what message are we sending to this young man, right? We're talking about the control already of college sports. So we're punishing him, and so he's going out into society and believing that me as a person in my position who made a mistake is being punished, but this other person who has just as much as control as I do to control my actions does not get punished. So we're not sending him the right message either.
And this is where I differ, and like I said, maybe it's just an old school thought, but also January 26th, Marcus Smart had an incident prior to this incident with his own team, where he had an emotional outburst, knocking over the Gatorade, kicking a chair. To me, I'm going to isolate Marcus Smart and say, this is an individual with anger management issues, not an individual who's got a more of a macro issue of African-American athletes with Caucasian fans. And so that's the one area I come with Marcus Smart. Secondly, because Marcus Smart is the only one this has occurred with, this will be my assumption. My assumption is the other athletes have shown restraint. Maybe these same type of things have happened, but they have not had the outburst that Marcus Smart had. So it goes back to the final thing I said. If all the other athletes are not responding this way, if the other athletes are not putting their hands on fans, is this just more of an isolated incident? Or is this just the tip of the iceberg where we've seen a player explode like this, and if we don't do something, it's going to get worse?
I think, if I may, sorry, Marcus Smart doesn't have a history of that outburst. And according to everything that I've heard or read or listened to, he doesn't have that background of being that violent, if you will, person. And I think what you said earlier about he was having a crappy game, I think that plays a lot into him getting up, not blowing it off, and going up and shoving the guy in the chest. So I mean, I don't know, I just don't think that anybody should give the fan a pass on any of this whatsoever, because in order for that incident to happen where Smart shoves him, it took two people.
That's what I was going to say.
Right.
Very good.
Now, I think moving forward, going in terms of, we talked earlier about athletes and the mental frailties of athletes. I think that's where the next level of conversation needs to be. We have had these conversations about, man, he just choked. He's a punk. He couldn't handle the pressure. Well, what does that really mean when we put it in the context not only of sports but of life? Do we have to, if you think back to the Bulls, what was the biggest thing that they talked about with Phil Jackson when he was coaching the Bulls?
Zen master.
And did it talk about X's and O's?
No.
It never talked about X's. It always talked about Phil was a master of life.
Because Phil didn't do too much coaching at all.
That would be the perception based on that. When we talked earlier about the frailties of the Illinois basketball team, John Gross, does he have to be the man to bring him in and put him on the couch? Does he have to understand all the nuances of everybody's personal background to be able to coach him? And so my point is, when we're talking about sports in the 21st century, is that something that, and I know Doc can speak on this better than any of us, but is that something that needs to be understood by coaches moving forward if they're going to be able to be successful with individuals who come from all these diverse backgrounds?
We ready for that answer?
Yeah, go
I absolutely agree. Particularly because we have to understand that we are dealing with a different type of social, economic, historical, any area that you think of, we are dealing with a different type of athlete. And so with all of the distractions, with all of the pressures and expectations now that athletes have, I don't know if, I think where I'm still trying to figure out I don't know if it's necessarily the coach's job to have the capacity to manage all of those things.
Okay.
What I think is the coach's job is to make sure that the player has avenues through which they can get everything that they need.
Well,
I think that if we expect a coach to teach them the fundamentals of basketball and how to become better players and teach them, and monitor their academics and monitor their home life and do all of these things, they're not going to do any of those things very well when they have, and we're only talking about, we've been focused on basketball, but we can't even think about football, where we're talking about triple the amount of players that a coach has to manage. So I think what a good coach understands is that he doesn't have the capacity to do all the things that a player needs to put him or her in the position to be as successful as they can be on the court.
A couple, the day that you had, what disease did he have there? Broncholusitis.
Yeah.
When you had that.
Everybody else is called pneumonia, but
Broncholusitis.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah,
Wow.
Joe was out there. Anyway, we had a discussion about why today's athletes will not be the political activists like the ones were back in the day. Like the Muhammad Ali's and well, hold on now. And she brought up a great point because
it's not just that.
Huh?
It's not just that. Go ahead.
But she brought up a great point. These guys are coming up. All they worried about is playing the game, getting to that next level. They're coming from these communities. I'm out the hood now. I'm making money. I'm not worried about what's going on out there. Mike,
I disagree with that too. But
Huh?
go ahead.
No.
I'm saying that they are worried. I disagree that they're not worried about what's going on.
But see, the point that we were trying to make during that discussion was, they're not talking about it. They're not going back and doing anything about it.
They're not standing up to the draft board like Muhammad Ali did.
Right. Those sort of.
But they don't have to though, right?
Right.
And I think that is I think that's all the one of the things that within my area that I hear the most about is why don't athletes take more of a political stance against things that are going on in the world. But it's because we're comparing them to Muhammad Ali and Jackie Robinson and probably the closest way to talking about Marcus Smart, right? We really could put the context of what would Jackie have done if he was Marcus Smart, right? That's because that's what we expect him to do. Right, we are expecting Marcus. We're saying that Marcus Smart, what he did, if it was the N word or if it wasn't, right? It doesn't really matter. The point is he felt threatened, right? Now, had he not been losing, had he, had the game not been going the way that it was, maybe he would have had a different reaction. But the point is that his reaction was based off of how he felt at that moment. So we're expecting him to be the Jackie Robinson of basketball, right? So the point is that we cannot compare athletes' political actions now or our desire for them to engage in political action now as we would with Muhammad Ali and those of the past, because they had a different context. They didn't have access. So it was much more apparent of why it was or what it was that they needed to fight for. So I can understand a young person's sort of trepidation about, well, what is it that I should be fighting for if, in my mind, if you look at any other sphere of opportunity for young people, we can say that sport is that space where, by all intents and purposes, this looks like the thing that is going to give me the access that I need. So what do I have to fight against? So until we give them something, so until we give them something, so we can't decide that they don't care if we haven't really delved into what are some of the areas and educated them about what are some of the areas that they can have an impact.
Do they not have that responsibility though?
I do. I think everybody has I think everybody has a responsibility, but to expect them to have to expect them to have more responsibility than anybody else, I think is where the lines are beginning to get blurred. Because I know I worked on the University of Illinois campus for 15 years, and out of the 50 students, about 2 of them are going to be engaged in political action. So why are we so hard on athletes? Why are we not we're not holding the rest of young people who are...
Mainly because they have more exposure.
Well, but the other thing is you don't necessarily see the young athlete today, male or female, step out on that ledge where somebody who is in a political science major who's not an athlete will step out on that ledge. And I think that maybe that perhaps is why you question the athlete. Hey, you came from the inner city. Why do you do nothing for the inner city, or not, at least not, and that may be a bad example, but at least not voice what you hope your platform that you've been given by the grace of God to do something about that. Whereas, like I said, the whatever the librarian student is down, as an example, East St. Louis or South Side of Chicago, whatever, in the summertime doing this, that, and the other to try to make the neighborhood better. Not to say that the athlete doesn't do that, but you don't hear about them doing that. You don't see them make that public stance.
So are we talking about pro athletes, or are we talking about college athletes? Because for either one we're talking about, right? One, I think we have to question, like you said, at least we don't hear about it. So we can't really assume that they're not doing anything because we don't hear about it, because that's our responsibility. Right. Our responsibility in the media, as community people, our responsibility is to find out if they're doing things, and when they are, to magnify that. But we don't do that. So we're not even holding up our part of the bargain, when we're expecting them to hold up their part, right?
That's right.
So we have to be more mindful of, because I know most of the athletes, at least professional athletes that I know, they're doing something in their community. Something. They're doing something. So to say that they do nothing, that they don't care at all, is, to me, just I kind of close my ears, because it's just not true. They're absolutely not. Now, are they not doing what we think that they should do? Well, the question then becomes, are we giving them the platform to do what we think they should do? Are we saying to them, what is it that we think that they should do? Because we're actually sending them the opposite message, right? Because like even with Marcus Smart, right? You said that fans, it's okay for fans to do what they want to do, right? Right. but really it's not okay. So really what we should be saying is not that he should have handled it in that way, but we are punishing him for his expression of frustration that he has with what he felt was an injustice against him. So we're actually sending the complete opposite message of, we think you should do something when you think it's wrong, but no, because you're an athlete, you're supposed to sit back and be quiet, and you're not supposed to say anything about things that you feel are injustices. Ever
since there's been a ball game, fans have been...
Absolutely.
I mean, we going back to the 1800s when baseball started, basketball started, all that. There's been... I'll get to you in a minute. There's been name calling.
Absolutely.
And on a much closer level than they are now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's going to continue to happen, Doc.
Just because it's been done don't mean it's right.
It's going to continue to happen, Doc.
Sure it is. Sure, it's going to continue to happen because we continue to say that that's just the way that the game goes.
If not, your fans are sitting there on their hands.
I think...
No, they're not. You can yell trust me, I'm a yeller. Oh. This sucks. I'm mad we're losing. I don't have to say,
I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yes,
I want my money now.
We can be irate and angry and frustrated without personal attacks on each individual player.
Okay.
We can do that.
All right.
Well, I will say this real quick. Number one, excellent. She used the word trepidation.
Yeah, I know.
That has never been used in the history of talking sports. So.
If I knew what it meant, I was going to say,
what?
Right.
Let's roll the tape back, make sure I used it in the right context.
When she said it, I looked over at your face and you was like,
what?
don't know what the
Well,
heck
we'll
you
roll
got.
the tape back and make sure I used it in the right context, you know.
But I think even more important, what I'm glad that the conversation got to was the point of context, in the fact that our views are shaped by our personal experiences, and we talk, me, you, and Mike, look at it from a standpoint of the overt situations that were happening. Ali, Jim Brown, when you see that picture of him and Kareem and all those guys together. But let's think about it from this standpoint. Back then, when sports was sports, it wasn't everyday sport. Meaning that in today's context, today's professional and collegiate athlete, sport is every day. So sometimes we do ask for them to take on responsibilities that, quite frankly, they can't do because they're doing this, for the lack of the term, the sport. You know, you think about a basketball player at the University of Illinois, when the season ends, it doesn't end. When a football player's season ends, it doesn't end. They're not relinquished from the campus to go do social activity that they may want to be involved in, because what? They've got practice time and weightlifting and training and, you know, all these other things that were not required of athletes back in the day. You know, we think about Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, for 3.5 years, did not box. So he had 3.5 years of the ability for social activism. How many athletes today, either voluntarily or involuntarily, would give up their sport for 3+ years to go out and be a social activist for a particular cause? And then the next question would be, what is the cause? If you think about the context of Ali and Jim Brown and Bill Russell and all the rest of the athletes back then, it was about civil rights. Today, there is a plethora of activities that you could be involved in, and once you pick one, the first thing the media is going to do is attack you for picking that one. You know, let's say LeBron James tomorrow said, I'm going to be an AIDS activist. First thing somebody would say is, why?
He got AIDS. No.
There you, you know.
But people didn't question Magic when he made that same choice.
But he had a personal involvement in it, Mike.
Exactly.
But I understand that.
You know.
But I guess my point is simply that, you know, Kareem, Bill Russell, Kurt Flood, whoever, Muhammad Ali, they all chose to be active for whatever cause. Today's athlete, you don't, and again, we don't necessarily know that they're choosing to do that. However, when you ask someone, hey, can you take a stand on this? No.
Well, and now I go to my point, as I've said earlier, is that, you know, when I did the little dollar sign, corporations are very neutral when it comes to activism.
Yeah,
and a lot of these individuals are pulled in as spokespersons and representatives of corporations.
Yeah.
And so now it is a decision, do I give up $20 million from Coca-Cola, or do I go out here and make this stand? And if it's not that important to me personally, because see, I think that's the other thing, we assume our issues are important to them.
Yes.
You know, I've always talked about with collegiate athletics, I've said that, you know, everybody talks about athletes should be paid. I said the biggest stand that any athlete could make, Final Four, not going to court. It would shut the Final Four down. That would put a spotlight, that would end the conversation. If athletes decided, you know what, we're not going to come out. Same thing with football, national championship. We're not going to come out the locker room. It would shut it down. That would be, to me, the biggest protest that they could do in terms of putting a light and shining a light on athletes being paid. But how many guys are going to think that's personally something that would personally affect them to the point where they would give up playing in the Final Four, give up playing in a national championship game for the plight of all the athletes in intercollegiate athletics?
Not gonna happen.
You know.
But I don't know if for me, I think that we're making an assumption, right? That if they made that decision, that it would end in a result of them getting paid, right? I don't have a problem with the argument, but I think when you come to a player, just saying that to them doesn't convince them of this is the action that should be taken, because we haven't really built that argument around some real factual understanding of, okay, so if you make this decision, how much would the NC2A lose if you all made this decision? And if you all made this, I mean, we know that because what they know is professional athletes. First of all, they're not even getting paid, right? They're not even getting paid. So you're asking them to do something that they're already doing for free, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but they know that they've seen the NBA go on strike. They've seen the NHL go on strike. They've seen Major League Baseball go on strike, right? And the theory was, well, if we say we're not going to play, they're going to give us what they want. Give us what we want. But they have evidence of the contrary.
Right. Well, but my point is that I know how much the billions of dollars that CBS invests in the Final Four, and the billions of dollars that are invested in the NCAA for the televising of these events.
Absolutely.
I know that the advertisers who buy the ads and spend, it goes back to what I said about corporations don't like issues. They're very neutral.
Absolutely. I
The
agree.
phones would ring.
Absolutely.
What do we have to do to get these athletes on the field?
Right.
Or what do you have to do to get these athletes?
Right.
Now the NCAA will, and obviously it wouldn't happen that night.
Right, sure.
But I think what it would do is shine a light on the issue that the average person has even no idea. Most people, when they watch a game, whether it be a collegiate football or basketball game, sit down for 2 or 3 hours, escape the world, watch it, and then they cut it off. But when they come in and cut their TV on and One Shining Moment ain't playing on CBS, and they're going, where's Jim Nance at?
Right.
Where's Billy Packer at? Where's Clark Kellogg at? Oh, well, the guys decided not to come out. Well, why not? Because they're not, what do you mean they're not getting paid? I thought, and now you can tell the narrative. Does it happen within a vacuum of 2 days? No.
Right.
A month? But
And I think that's the point. That's my point is that to speak about it in sort of a singular moment is the reason why it will never happen. Right.
Right.
It's to speak
Never
about
happen.
it. We have to understand that there has to be a broader conversation about how does that action lead to then becoming the message that needs to be sent, right? Because what will happen is that if we allow it to just be the singular moment, then the media and the advertisers and the NC2A will make it about the players being selfish, right?
Right.
So it needs to be a more organized.
Oh, I agree.
It needs to be more organized. And
But-
I think when we begin to have a conversation about the more organized, because and I'll bring Professor Bates out for you for a second, because you're correct in that when we look at the John Carlos Tommy Smith moment in the Olympics, most people don't know that was actually not how people like to diminish Rosa Parks, she just got
sat
tired.
down, right.
No. The action that John Carlos and Tommy Smith took on the Olympic stand was the product of a broader movement, right?
Exactly.
Which was, the Olympic Project for Human Rights, right? And so, which was then a discussion that led to, because the real desire was for athletes to not go at all,
Right,
black
exactly.
athletes to not go at all,
Right.
right? And so what happened with that process was the players decided, okay, so we think that this is important, but what we want is to make the decision of what that action looks like. And so that is, I think, the reason why that moment was able to happen. Because the players were a part of the conversation from the beginning to then begin, and that is why now we struggle to get them to engage in activities, because we're saying to them, don't play on, we're not allowing them or encouraging them or bringing them to the table to have broader conversations about, first of all, what are your issues? Do you all have any issues? Are y'all cool? Because if they cool, then why are we still even being bothered with it, right? Because we've decided as a society, because we've decided that something's wrong, right?
He
And
said
and that's why we frustrated, because we're looking on the outside.
You
I'm
straight.
cool. I'm straight.
You
I'm straight.
You think they're cool?
They cool. I'm straight.
Well, we're gonna have
But
to
you
take
want
it
them to not go to the. You want them to not.
It's just the trepidations that I'm concerned with. I was waiting.
You was waiting. You just feeling that.
All right, we gotta take a break. You remember a few years back we talked to Roy Simmons, about being gay in the NFL.
Right.
He told us his plight, the things that he had to go through.
Right.
And that was a nice interview. You would love to sit in on that one. But Michael Sams, he's waiting to
Going to the combine next week.
yeah, and waiting on the next rat. We're gonna talk about that when we come back. But right now, I found a what the Joe. What the? Ladies and gentlemen, Joe, Mike, Namika, Ed Reed. You know, used to play with the Rockets. I mean, not the Rockets, but the
Ravens.
Yeah, he played with Houston too, the
Texas this year. Yeah.
Anyway, he had $50,000 stolen out of his car.
Yeah.
He went to the bank.
Like all of us do.
Yeah. Withdrew $50,000. I keep want to say that one. $50,000.
Like we all do.
Like we all do.
Yeah. Let me get 50. That's how you say it when you go to the counter.
Yeah.
Let me get 50.
Do it on the passenger seat.
Like we always do.
Like we all. Roll to another bank.
Right. Because I'm going to take the 50 from the first bank to the second bank.
No, he left it in the car.
But he left it in the ride.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to get 2 50s.
Go in the other bank to make another withdrawal.
50 again.
But unknowns to him, he was followed from the first bank.
Somebody was lurking.
They broke the glass, took his $50,000.
Wait a minute. What my first 50?
Took his $50,000.
All right.
Now, my question to you, Joe, D'Amico, what was this man up to?
That he had to go get 50 from one and 50 from the other?
Exactly.
Hey.
What does he say he was up to?
He didn't.
So what do you think he was up to? I'm going to ask you. Then I'll give you my answer. Because I know you want to go to break. What do you think he was up to? That he went to the bank, got 50, threw it in a satchel, threw it on the front seat, left.
I want to say it was ransom money.
You think it's ransom?
Ransom?
For somebody.
Ransom money.
Ransom.
That's pretty dramatic.
You've been watching too much CSI.
That is dramatic. Ransom?
Ransom money.
Are you taking your meds today?
Yeah, I did. You'd be surprised.
He didn't say why he.
I need two.
What was his reason?
He didn't.
He hasn't said why.
He didn't say.
Okay.
I have an idea.
All right, Mike, go ahead with your idea.
He was going to shave, so he needed money to buy razor blades.
See? Big beard.
Sound legit to me.
And the price of razors nowadays?
Seem legit to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use one.
I don't have $50,000.
Okay.
My answer is this. It don't matter. It's his money.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore.
He made a unwise decision when he went to the bank to get 50 grand out and left it on the seat. And unfortunately, like I said, somebody was lurking and they got it. But what was the reason behind it? Really doesn't matter. Because the 50 is gone.
Yeah.
So let's use your theory. If it was the ransom, that
Then
person.
maybe it was the ransom
right,
people.
there you go.
It was the ransom people.
Well, he was being followed.
They said we're gonna
Hold
put it. He said I'm gonna put it in the front seat, and I'm going to the other bank like I'm getting another withdrawal.
Right. So
bust the
then
window out.
exactly. I'm
Now I
not
act
on
like-
camera.
there you go.
We going with you.
With you.
We going with you.
All right, excellent.
I'll be LL for you.
It was ransom money, folks.
It was ransom
It
money.
was ransom money.
Sam said it.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, Michael Sams. We'll be back.
Welcome back, Talk Sports, WBCP 1580 and UPTV. First hour of the show, lively debate, lively discussion, and it is all because we finally reduced the testosterone levels in the show. That's it. I mean, there's nothing else.
It has been a little
You
different.
It has been. I know it's been difficult for you at times, but you are starting to adjust. I think that's the good thing is that
You're starting to get the feel.
Phil, you
for-
are.
you getting the
You know,
feel
it's
for
like
my
that
style.
that exterior shell.
Absolutely.
She's cracked it.
He's sitting up on the couch.
There you go. No, he's got his feet over the side of the couch. Got his head in his hand. He's like, yeah, Doc. I'm starting to feel where you come from, Doc. But that's good. And we talk about Doc. Namika Bates is here. Sociologist. Not psychologist.
Not
Sociologist.
psychologist.
Sports sociologist.
People's first.
People person. Getting a doctorate. May 2014 gifts. You can send them down here to
That's
BCP and get her hooked up.
Absolutely.
Mike Cox sitting in the back, the originator. Fantastic
He over there
debate.
in the corner, like he hired.
He like that guy at the bar.
My cat
You
was
sitting at the bar talking, and then all this you hear something.
Yeah, I got around this.
Who said that? Who said that? And then I was talking on the bear, you know. But Mike Cox sitting in the back, enjoying. We've talked a lot about quite frankly, a lot of social issues when it comes to sports today.
We never do that.
Right. And why is that? Because it's just me and you.
Just me and
And we ain't got no makeup. See?
Hey.
Need a little level. You know, we done had too much bass in our life. We need some treble. She's brought some treble in. We're going to float.
What a segue.
Amazing segue into Michael Sams. Michael Sams, the co-defensive player of the year from the SEC, plays for Missouri. Came out last week.
Excellent ball player, too.
Yes, he is. And said that he is a gay man and proud of it and looking forward to play at the next level of the NFL. Now, the Combine starts the 22nd, so he will be one of the 300-plus attendees at the Combine. The question that's been kicked around, whether it be, I brought in my SI magazine,
Oh, nice.
America,
I haven't seen this yet.
is it ready for Michael Sam? And, I don't want to be too sarcastic, but they make it seem like Michael Sam is an alien.
Yeah, it is. But you look at, I mean, with the political stance on gay rights and same-sex marriage, it's all common now. I mean, you got your singers coming out, you got your actors, actresses,
But here,
them two, and everybody's quote unquote coming out the closet except for the major pro sports.
but here's my thing: when you say now everybody's coming out. No, folks. My point is, folks have been out of the closet for generations.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, but I'm talking towards America, not towards you. I'm talking to them. You sit over there and be quiet. What I'm saying to America is this immediate fascination of an issue that to me is really a non-issue in America.
Being gay?
Yes.
Okay.
When we look at what's happening in terms of common or same-sex marriages, as you talked about, when we see what's happening in terms of changes of laws in the workplace and protection for LGBT folks in the community, and how the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way. Michael Sams is a football player at the University of Missouri, right?
Mm-hmm.
He played a whole season for the University of Missouri that nobody know, meaning his teammates knew.
Right.
And they were able to play and function. We talk about college students.
Right.
People can't hold water. So why is it now an issue going into the professional ranks? If collegiate kids can keep his privacy in terms of his sexuality to themselves and still greet him as a teammate, treat him as a teammate, and let him lead, because that's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the team leaders. This is not like some third string guy we talking about.
I agree with you, Joe.
So I'm just trying to figure out
I agree with you, Joe.
the fascination as to why now.
But it's the NFL.
Okay.
Hold on now. Let's say he do get drafted, gets picked by a team. Now you got the issue where the commission is going to have to rewrite some stuff. They're going to have team meetings about, how.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead.
That's right. They're going to have to, well, they really don't, well, they have it, but, now you got a gay guy in the locker room. They're going to have to write, what's the laws they call for employment?
Equal opportunity.
Yeah, they're going to have to do all that.
What
Have
do
those
they
classes.
do all that?
It's already there.
Hmm?
It should already be there.
Right.
You
That's my point.
You would think so. But this is going to be entirely different.
And the question is, why?
Because he asked it to be, though, right?
You saying Michael Sams asked it to be different?
Yeah.
No, he did.
I don't
He
think
did.
he did. I don't
Because
think he did.
he's the person who
He said
made it known.
that I'm
He
gay.
said that the most important thing we have to remember about this issue is that he has decided that
To let
he
us
did
know.
not want, he wanted to let us know.
Right.
Right? So that's the difference between last year with him and his team than now. because he wanted it to be prominent. He wanted it to be something that was known. This is a part of his identity. And so to decide that, you know, everything would have been fine, or we shouldn't talk about it, or we shouldn't, you know, address it, would be telling him that we're not willing to accept what he wants to get out of it, which was for us to recognize this fact about him and his identity, right?
But I think Joe's point and mine, if I'm on the same page here, is why does it matter? It doesn't matter. Either he can play football or he can't. And I think the key word in all this is openly, because we all know, we're not dumb, I don't think, that there have been gay athletes in professional sports for generations.
Right.
But they've had to live
But
under
it mattered. But he answered the question of why does it matter, right? Because for him, his perception was that if they don't know that I am a gay man, then they will treat me they will make certain assumptions about me that I don't want them to make. So that's why it matters, because he doesn't want these assumptions. He wants you to understand that as a gay man, my life experiences are different. And so that's the reason why it matters.
Right. But here's my point about when I say why does it matter.
Okay.
You've made the statement that, and I'm saying Michael Sams, you've made the statement to me that I want you to know that I'm an openly gay man, so that I control my message. Hey, Mike, fine. When it's 4th and 3, can you make the stop? Meaning that's how long it should matter to me, his sexuality. Is once he tells me he's gay, okay, we're good.
Can you play or not?
Can you play is the next step. And that's my point about
So are we arguing that the only foundation of a player, a team's chemistry is relegated to just being on the field?
No, it's
not. Exactly.
It's in the locker room.
Exactly. It's everywhere.
It's
so
everywhere.
we can't just say that all I care about is can you play? Because it's not all we care about.
Let me say this.
Right? Is that true?
Actually, it is.
Okay.
And here's why. It's a profession.
Okay.
Everybody gets a check to do their job.
Okay.
Mike could be a drug addict. Okay, Mike's the drug addict. All right. You could be cheating on your spouse.
The jump off.
Right. He's the locker room jump off. You know.
I can't believe I'm buying this.
Jeez,
what is this?
I'm the moral majority. I'm the Christian right.
Well,
of course.
Yes,
of
this
course.
is
Never let you control your message. Go ahead.
We are all individuals in super diverse groups. We all have our own individual picadillos, however you want to label.
Absolutely.
I don't care what you did Saturday night.
Okay.
We're going to go play Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos.
Okay. He's still stuck on the Broncos.
Right.
You'll never get over that.
Right. I know Mike.
Let it go.
You know, Mike came in at 4 in the morning. Looked like he had powdered donuts for breakfast. You know. Jump off. You over there in the corner crying because
she left me.
She left you because
no more jump off.
There you go. No more jump off.
Darn.
But we get paid every week to do a job, and the job is to go out and play tackle football. Now, after we play tackle football, maybe I might have some concerns about you or you. But at the time we got to do a job, and it's like every day when you go to the office or the construction site or the doctor's office, etc. Everybody in that office has their own individual picadillos they got to deal with. But if you're a nurse, I don't give about your situation at home. I just want to make sure that you put the right number of cc's of morphine in that individual's drip bag that's laying in that hospital bed. I don't care what Mike has been dealing with, as long as when we ask for information, he's giving us the correct information, and so on. America, our economy, our job base is dealing with the same thing every day. Now, I know it's a different environment. We're talking about the locker room and this, that, and the other. But we're talking about professionals. And all I'm saying is that Michael Sam, I applaud him for coming out. I'm saying to America, not Michael Sams. All right, let's roll up our sleeves. If Michael Sams can play football, draft him, and let's get him on the football field and play. Let's not always, every time Michael Sam makes a play, Michael Sams is an openly gay player. Because that's what the media, that's to me where I get a problem with our media, is they lose the actual focus of what the individual is supposed to be doing and talk about, I know that's important in Michael Sam's life. That's why he came out. He's proud to be gay. Proud for you too. It's just like talking about an African-American athlete. When the media is so hell-bent, he's the first African-American, blah, blah, blah. He's the first, no. He's a quarterback, linebacker, center, whatever. He's playing a position, doing his job. His identity is he is an African-American. We get that. But if we continue to focus on the side issue of what he thinks is important, we're not going to get to the real issue, is whether he can do the job or not.
Well, I think it was Dante Stovall had a quote I saw that as it relates to Michael Sam coming out as a gay individual in the NFL. And I don't remember all of it, so I'll paraphrase it. But in essence, he said, if the fact that he's gay is an issue you can't deal with, you're a loser anyway. You're never going to win a Super Bowl. So why does it even matter from an NFL perspective that he happens to be gay?
Now, I will say this. I think final thing I'll say on it, and I'll open it back up. But I think what he has done is shattered a myth.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we have all
a stereotype.
Right, the stereotype in our mind of what a gay athlete would look like.
And given the Winter Olympics are going on,
there you go. We would always take a figure skater or somebody in something that we would consider a feminine type behavior, so to speak. You got a 6'2", 260-pound linebacker. He breaks the image of what we see when we think gay and sports. And that's what I like from this standpoint, is what he has now done to say, hey, you don't know what gay looks like.
And there probably are other gays in the NFL.
Oh, there are.
Yeah, but my point is, he's getting ready to, they're already in there doing what they do, but he's getting ready to go into an NFL locker room, an openly gay man.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to catch holy hell.
I think not. I disagree with you. I think and that's the.
So what's the difference between NFL and college? Do you think that he's already
money?
Yeah,
that's
money.
The difference. That's the biggest difference.
No,
because he's talking about the locker room. So he's talking about the interaction between him and the players.
Yeah, and the players.
Right. So what? How does money change the way that a player might interact, or the decisions that a player might have towards how they treat?
Okay, you have some of these guys that have been here, been in the league, 10, 9, 8 years, and their testosterone is going to be off the charts. I have a gay dude in the locker room. How I feel about that? Not very good. Not very good. That's how a lot of them are going to do. And I look for eventually they're going to accept him. I'm pretty sure of that. But I'm just thinking it's going to be a tough time for him.
Why do we take it to the lowest common denominator when we talk about athletes in the standpoint of their sensitivities? As though they're just knuckle dragging, snot spewing, chromosome missing athletes. How come we always take the visual of, as you just did and said, I'm a 10-year vet and I'm not going to put up with it? How come that's always our natural assumption? That's why I'm going the opposite direction. No, they're professionals.
It's not going to be an issue.
These guys are professional athletes. They deal with so many other issues. It's almost like we put them in a vacuum or in a box and remove them from the daily issues of society and think they don't deal with that. Just because they're an athlete.
Well, look how long did it take, he just brought up the Richie Incognito thing. Look how long it took him for that. And that's been going on for a while.
Okay, so we got an issue of bullying in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 32 teams, you got one team. And so, once again, we equate the behavior of a few to the many, to the masses. Is that how we're taking this? I understand. Like I said, I'm not naive to think that there's not gay bashing. I'm not naive to say that there's not bigotry. I'm not naive to think that there are idiots out there in the world who still hold some of these archaic views about alternative lifestyles. I'm talking about moving forward. Sometimes we got to look at it with a breath of fresh air and a clean light shine on it and say, hey, this is what it is. He said he's gay. He's going to the combine next Friday as what? Is he going as an openly gay football player, or is he going as a linebacker?
Linebacker.
No, he's going as an openly gay football player.
Okay.
What?
Because he wanted it to be that way.
Right.
Right?
But what I'm saying, for him, he wants, you keep saying that's what he wants. I'm saying for everybody else who's there, lined up to play linebacker, am I saying to myself, man, that's the openly gay linebacker? Or am I saying, I got to beat Michael Sams, I got to run faster than him, I got to lift my 225, I got to do more reps than him, I got to jump higher than him? His sexuality at that point for me as a football player is irrelevant.
Right, exactly.
It is irrelevant because if Michael Sams can run faster, jump higher,
You're saying
lift,
it should be irrelevant, because I think the question is whether or not it's irrelevant, right? Because at this point, it's absolutely relevant because
Because he put it out there.
because he made it a point to help make sure that all of us understood that this was something, that a choice that he made,
Right.
and so it's not irrelevant, because just like anybody watching this now who sees me will now always associate me with Dr. Bates, sports sociologist. Do you see what I'm saying? So once we have a sense of a person's identity, we automatically associate how we interact with that person based off of the information that we have. So yes, it would be nice if when he goes to the combine now that we look at him as just as a player. But what we know for sure is that people who don't even know what the combine is, wouldn't ever watch the combine, will now tune in to the combine, because now what we have to do is continue to formulate what we see as what a gay football player looks like and performs like.
I see how you felt earlier, man. I see how you felt.
That's the reason why I'm looking at you.
Right. I'm now, look, I can shake your hand now, because I've been taken to the principal office and putting remember on the Flintstones, when after Wilma would chastise Fred be about that big?
Yeah.
You know, could you help me to my truck?
I got you.
Yeah, you got me.
I got
you
you.
know.
Thank
Mike,
you,
get on
Dr.
up here. Your turn.
Yes.
No, Mike, because I got half a left.
On a disappointing note, though, that's actually a local aspect to this. If you remember everybody showing the still photo of Michael Sam playing football, what quarterback was he chasing? Number 2, orange and white.
Right.
I mean, come on, folks. Pick a different quarterback, I guess. I mean, you play in the SEC, you got to pick Nate to show that picture for everybody.
And I think, because I think that's really, I mean, when I see what his choice was, is, I think that, just like going back to what we were talking about with Illinois, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what we understand is that a player is not just the person that is playing on the field, on the court, in the arena. We know that for sure. We don't have to debate that, because we know that. We know that a performance is connected to how you feeling that day, the confidence you have, the people that's watching you, how many people watching you, how much exposure you getting,
how many times you talk to you jump off.
Exactly, all of that.
Right.
If both of them in the stands, and if I win
did
this
I get her C-section tickets or A-section tickets?
Exactly. It's, I'm on the court. I'm worried about if they go into the concession stand at the same time.
You be worried about that?
All of that. That might have been why you lost them 20 games. I'm just
right.
saying. It might not have nothing to do with you getting put on the bench. I'm just saying.
You
right?
jump off.
I'm just saying. The point is that we know that all of these things play into, and so maybe what Michael Sam wants is to challenge us to even see. He wants us to tune in to the combine. He wants us to see all of those images that you all had of what a gay player looks like and performs like and acts like. I'm hoping to change those perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you disassociate that from me, then you don't associate that with me.
Well, check and mate.
Is there gonna be a quiz at the end of the
I hope not.
Not today.
Yeah.
I got it on tape. I don't need it.
Because I have some
I already got the evidence.
I have some trepidation about any quiz.
About what might happen.
Right.
Okay.
Oh,
You know,
shit.
moving
I got
forward on this.
You
You
guys
know.
were the ones that invited her, right?
I know, right?
No, oh man. We had to look at our
And
guest
that's
list.
what I'm here for.
She is killing us.
I know.
Man. You know what? Move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Let's see if we can save face.
How much time we got left?
We might take a break. Maybe you want
Local
to take a
stuff?
break.
No, we're rolling.
Well, we've got about five games. I was going to say 5 weeks. 5 games left in the high school basketball regular season.
Go
The
Chargers.
girls actually finished up this week. Speaking of the Chargers, they just won their 4th. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Big 12 title in girls varsity basketball.
Excellent.
So congratulations. See, one of the things that has
Chargers.
always been a myth, you know, is I'm a hater. I'm not a hater.
I don't really.
And I give credit where credit is due.
There you go.
Typically get sick with the pneumonia.
The
Bronco losing eyes.
bronchitis.
All right, look. We got one more time.
Bronco.
I got my pistol out in the truck.
Oh, really? Man,
Now,
that's
if I can get out, if I can get through all y'all, get to the
Word
snow,
of the day.
you know,
Bronco losinitis.
bullets on layaway though, so I got 2 more weeks of payments. I
You'll
might
be all
find you. Right. But girls, like I said, they their season regular season ended this week, so regionals will start next week for them. For the lower classes, the 1 and 2A, they've actually already started the basketball regionals. And you know, obviously the story to watch there is Tori McCoy,
Who?
St. Thomas More, #1 basketball player in her class in the nation. You know you're good
She's
when
a sophomore, right?
Gina R.M. will come here from UConn
To see
and watch
her
you play pickup basketball. Not watch a game of yours, but just come in because they decided to do some pickup ball. She right now, like I said, Illinois is hot on her trail. UConn, as I just mentioned, she is by far the hottest thing that we've seen around here. So last year they made it to the state championship and lost. So, you know, you want to see if she, and that was just as a freshman. So, you know, she comes back sophomore year and wins the state title. I mean, there's nothing but good things down the road for
Right.
Tori.
Sounds like it.
On the boys' side, Centennial and Urbana played Tuesday. Centennial, Michael Finke. The rest of that gang, they're leading the Big 12 right now. The regionals for that will be in a couple of weeks, starting over at Combs Gym. And if everything plays out the way it should be, there should be a rubber match between Central and Centennial.
Oh, you like that, wouldn't you? What the Tigers doing?
Let's move forward. Now I mean, they're struggling. You know, they're struggling, Sam, and I think we've talked about this before about some of the issues that have been happening with Urbana sports in terms of just participation. Number one, we've talked about that. Number two, being able to keep a solid collective team, a unit, whether it be on a football field or basketball
Is
court.
that
So
bad at Urbana?
it's not been consistent, I guess, to be, because, you know, number one, we're talking about high school kids now.
Mhm.
You know, we talked earlier about the frailties of athletes. You definitely don't want to, because that is truly an extracurricular sport. You know, kids going to school, doing everything that they have to do, and then go out for extracurricular sport, whatever it may be, you know. And I think that's the thing, is just Urbana has just had an issue over the years in terms of numbers and consistency. And until something happens there, you know, you're just always going to have this fluctuation.
But they got more on the debate team than they do the basketball team.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but getting kind of close. Getting kind of
Dang.
close over there. Yeah.
I need to go back.
Anything else you got going on, man?
No, we're gonna let Namika come come up here. She writes a blog. You have a blog, right?
I do have a blog.
Scoot on up here and tell us about your
Okay.
website
All right,
and about your
okay.
blog and everything, Miss Bates. Oh,
Okay,
Dr.
well,
Bates.
Doctor, yes, let's go ahead and speak
Just say it
Speak
now.
it, speak it.
Dissertation.
Speak it. Well, my blog is, and the address is, well, the title of my blog is Sports Scholar Activist. And yes, watch
yeah.
out. And so the blog address is sportscholaractivist.blogspot.com. And my most recent post was about Richard Sherman. And you
That thug.
yeah, I know, right? Bad. Shame on ya. Yes, it was about Richard Sherman, and it was actually very similar to my argument about Michael Sam, and that we diminished his expression to adrenaline, and my argument was that it was bigger than just an adrenaline, and it
Might be
was
selling itself.
it was bigger than that. It was a moment of frustration about all that he has, been challenged with in terms of getting the respect that he deserves. You're not feeling that. See, we should have talked about that. Okay, next time. Next time. So yes, I basically argued for, us just thinking about it in a more broader perspective. And that's what I do, is I try to take things that I hear people talking about and use my experiences with working with athletes, with the research that I do, and just my friends that I know that are former athletes and what their experiences are. And I try to just give a different perspective, get people to think a different way, because my goal is, I think that we've bought into this is how things should be. This is how things have always been. And so my goal is for us to start changing the conversation so that athletes are not feeling like we're always against them, because I would argue that a lot of times they feel that way. And so I think that we have to do a better job. If we want them to be more active in our communities, then we have to recognize them for what they do and the contributions that they make, and not diminish them to just being little pawns on a court, that we look at them in the broader context. And so that's what my blog does.
He wants to humanize them.
Absolutely.
How long have you been writing this blog?
My blog has been actually my blog started off as a way to tell my friends about a cross-country drive that I made a couple years ago. So when I left Champaign, I decided to see the country, and I drove to California and drove back. So that's how it started. Yeah. So that was 3 years ago, and then it developed from there.
How long did it take you to get to California?
It took, well, I actually spent a month and a half on the West Coast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it took me, the drive was 2 days. So when I get in the car, I go, you go to the bathroom and you eat at the gas station. We don't do all that extras.
They made a movie like that, didn't they?
Yeah.
No Vacation.
Sure, right. So yeah, so it took you 2 days. So yeah, so check out my blog. I'm dissertating, so I typically my posts are not as frequent because I need to graduate in May.
Yeah, I did.
But when I do post, I always put it on my Facebook page and my Twitter page and my Instagram page. So
Sounds like so much slack.
Ooh.
Wow.
Mike think we cool too.
Yeah,
That's what
what it is. That's what it is.
He think we done had this time together. He think we cool. So I'm gonna let him slide.
I guess my question to you: why sports?
Well, oh wow, that's a great question. Because I didn't play sports when I was in school. So a lot of people assume that I'm a former athlete, but I'm not. Actually, sports, because my junior year in college, I didn't have a major. And my mentor said, we're going to have to figure out something for you to do.
Sound like an athlete.
Yeah. Maybe I got it in my bones and I just didn't know. Maybe.
You're misguided
Absolutely
right now.
right. I'm going to need you to figure out something to do with your life, right? That's what she said. So, so she introduced me to what she knew that I enjoyed doing. I was doing a lot of community work, and I was a big supporter of, Champaign sports, because I'm from Champaign, Illinois sports. So she said, you know, she introduced me to the major of sports management. And when I got into it, I said, okay, this is something cool. I think this is definitely what I want to do. So my first goal was to do community relations with a professional team. I quickly realized that that's something that working in professional sports is very, very challenging to get into. You really have to know somebody. You have to really kind of have to be a former athlete who, you know, with some credentials. You know, it's a hard thing to get into. So I decided to come back and do my master's and work for the athletic department. Had a really great experience with them, worked in marketing as an intern, and then moved into working with academic support services. And that's when I really figured out what my passion was. I realized that I had a lot of assumptions about who athletes were. And working with them, getting to know them, helped me to realize that I didn't really want to work in sport. I wanted to first really spend more time learning about what their experiences are. And then once I began to do that work, then I said, I can help them. I can help, you know, send out a different message. I can help represent the players that I know.
Right.
Because the people, the players I was reading about or hearing other people talk about, I'm like, those are not my friends. Those are not the people that I know.
Right.
You know, so that's sort of what my path and how I got led to where I'm at today.
If you could say in your studies, what is the biggest misconception of athletes that you
is that they're not human? Sam said it. Is that they're not human? You know, is that, you know...
Sam is not human. Yes, I agree with that.
That I might agree to. I might be on that.
But they're not human.
But that they're not human. That we completely disassociate athletes from everything that we give other people a consideration of. Mm-hmm. You know, we expect them to act, be, and function different in society. Right. So I think that for me is probably the biggest thing is that we have to remember they have families, they have struggles, they have money problems, you know, 50, jump off problems.
Jump off and 50,000.
As Sam would say, you know, they have the same human problems that we have. They have the same human expectations that we have, and I think that we forget that a lot.
I have to agree with her on that. Remember how I've always compared Tiger Woods and Mike Tyson as they're the same individual?
Yeah,
you know it. And a lot of people, and I would love to hear your opinion on that, because just to share real quick, I've always thought that I call it ultra-focused athletes, the greatest of the greats, the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, the Tiger Woods, because they're so ultra-focused on their craft, they're socially challenged. They don't have any relationship skills. And so then when things in their sport go wrong, everything else just is destroyed. If you think about Mike Tyson, when Mike Tyson was at his heyday, I mean, Mike Tyson was blowing through guys 60 seconds, 90 seconds, knock them out.
Right.
When he lost to Buster Douglas, that's when everything else happened. You know, that's when you started hearing about Mike and all the women and all the alcohol, all the drugs and all the other things. Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was winning 6-7 tournaments a year, 2 or 3 majors. Life was great. But as soon as his game started coming down, everything else started coming down. Kobe and the issue that happened out in Colorado. It just seems as though those athletes are so focused on whatever their craft is that they're kind of oblivious to just normal life. And then when normal life appears, they seem like they don't handle it the best compared to everybody else. And I just, with your background in that, would love to see what you would have to say about something like those type of athletes, you know. And when I say those type of athletes, meaning that upper echelon. So
you asking me or you asking her?
I'm definitely not asking you.
I didn't think so.
I didn't know if that was right now. Yeah. Well, my immediate sort of reaction to that is, one, because we know that they're human, we know that these things don't just develop.
Right.
So Tiger Woods didn't have 20 women when he started losing.
Right.
Right. He already had them. Right. So is it that at those moments they can't manage it? Or is it those moments that magnify the things that they haven't necessarily been managing before? And do we magnify them, right? Because we're a news cycle functioning society, right?
Oh, we had some good
I
jokes.
knew Sam couldn't play baseball because of them jump offs.
Exactly, right?
Right.
So we shape the story.
Right.
We shape, you know, once things do happen, you know, we decide, you know, well, where is all of this coming from? When the fact is that they've always been there.
Right, right.
They've always been there. And so when we, you know, as we humanize them, we become less surprised when, you know, things like that happen, because we understand that these are things that probably have built up, but because we've been celebrating them, and now that they're losing, as we begin to stop celebrating them, we stop celebrating their lives as well.
Ain't nothing like a jump off at the Waffle House.
There you go. There you go.
That's what she's saying. You celebrate Tiger Woods jump off at the Waffle House till he lost the master.
All righty then.
Jump off.
There you go.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Talking Sports. We do this each and every Friday from 2 to 4. So you be sure and tune in again. Next week, we're going to lace them up and we're going to do it again. Say goodbye, Joe.
Nothing like getting chastised in the principal's office.
Mike, you got anything you want to say?
Have a good night.
Namika.
Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed it immensely. That's another one for you.
Immensely.
Yeah,
Trepidation and immensely. Let me write them down.
okay. Go ahead. And if you are a jump off, or if you don't know if you're a jump off, I'm going to be rolling up to the club at around about 10:30ish. Can't wait to see you there.